Hi everyone, this is Kari, and I am part of the Consistently Creative crew along with Cheryl and Colleen. And yesterday evening, we did the project recipe Free Spirit. It's a little bit more complex than what we've been doing, and so there wasn't enough time for me to record the digital instructions yesterday evening. So instead, I decided I would take a little bit of time today and go through that here. So I am going to turn off my camera so I can just be sharing my screen. And this is the project recipe that Creative Memories put together. And as you can see, there's some circles, there's some angled cuts, there's some punches. So I took the information from this project recipe and used the cutting guide information that's on the back of the page to help me create some digital instructions to do the page. So in essence, we're going to do a lot of cutting, a lot of inserting of shapes. We'll lay out the left-hand page and then we're going to mirror image it and create the right-hand page. So if you want these instructions, you can always email us at consistentlycreativecrew@gmail.com. You can also find them on our Facebook group, which is named slightly differently, Consistently Creative Croppers, and this file will be in the file section on that page. And if you do use these instructions to help you create a page, we'd love to see what you create. There is an album in our Facebook group in order to share some of our inspirations, and we'd love to see what you create. So this instruction set is fairly long, and I'm going to move the instructions off to my other monitor so I can kind of go through them, but I will walk through all of the steps. And as you can see here, if you can see my PDF screen, it's 6 pages long. There's a lot of screenshots in here, so you can see exactly what needs to be done in order to recreate the page. It's not really too tedious to do digitally, but having the instructions as a reference might be very helpful. So I'm going to create the left page, and then I will create the right page from what I have on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and start out. First shape we're going to create is a rectangle. So insert a rectangle that is 10 by 6 with no stroke. And I am going to fill this with a light yellow. And the reason I'm keeping the colors fairly consistent with what I had on my initial information, which is also similar to the sketch that Creative Memories provided, is that that just makes things a little bit easier as you go through in order to keep straight which shape is which. And then at the end, you can go ahead and fill them with other whatever papers or colors you would like. So then again, this is just for simplicity. I set the X to 0 and the Y to 0 for this specific rectangle. And I give myself a ruler marker here at 4 inches. So that way I can see kind of what I'm doing. So with this rectangle selected, I'm going to go to Cut Cutters Straight Edge. It's okay to flatten. And mine remembers that it needs to be at minus 45 degrees because this is what I was cutting yesterday. So it needs to be at minus 45 degrees, and you want to slide the cutter so that it intersects the bottom right corner of your rectangle, and it's going through the top edge right close to that 4-inch mark, which is why I had you put that ruler marker there. So if you zoom in, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but I found that zooming in a little bit was very helpful in order to see that I was going through that corner pretty nicely. It should be good because ultimately you're going to want a nice triangle. And you don't really need to keep both areas. I kept them in the when I worked on it with everybody else, but for this time, I'm actually only going to just keep the left side and cut. So for me, that is this shaded area. And I'm going to cut, and I've removed that other rectangle. And now you don't need the ruler guide anymore, so you can delete it. The next thing we're going to do is insert another rectangle. This one is going to be 5.5 by 5.5. So it's actually a square. And I'm going to fill it with light green. Again, I'm just keeping the colors to be somewhat similar to what I had, just to make it easier because I call them out by colors as I go through. And we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to cut it just like we cut the other thing. So cut, cutters, straight, straight edge. Okay, if your remember tool is on, it will be at -45, and it should set up to go right through the center. So for me, I don't have to move anything. This time I am going to keep both areas, and I am going to cut. And I'm going to hit save. Doing a lot of cutting, a lot of shapes, so I'm going to save fairly frequently. So next I'm going to insert a shape. This time we're going to insert an ellipse, and it's going to be 6 by 6. And this time I'm going to fill it with a yellow, but I'm going to have it be a darker yellow than what I had before. In the traditional instructions, this is the reverse side of the light yellow paper. And I just wanted a way to designate that so I would know that this was the reverse side of that paper. So again, this is a 6 by 6 circle. I'm filling it with a dark yellow, and I'm going to click create. And again, we're going to go and we're going to cut this one. So having the circle selected, go to cut, cutters, straight, straight edge, okay to flatten, -45 degrees. You can keep both areas, and it should be going straight through the center and cut. All right, so that's all of the cut shapes. And now we're going to make 5 additional shapes that we are going to need before we start moving everything around. So the first one is going to be a rectangle that is 1.5 inches by 12. And this one is our light green color, and it's in my recent. So I'm just going to use the same color and click create. The next one is another light green, and it is going to be 6.5 by 4, and click create. Next is going to be a circle. So insert shape ellipse, and this one is going to be 4.5 by 4.5. And this one, I want it to be a light blue color. And I want my blue to be differentiated from the green. So I am going to actually just select another blue. When I was using a really light blue, it was hard on the printouts to tell the difference between the blue and the green. So this again is a 4.5 by 4.5 inch circle in a lighter blue color. Now I'm going to click save. Added quite a bit. Next is a rectangle that is 1 by 12. And that one is also blue. And one more rectangle that is 4 by 5. That is also blue. And click create. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to start moving my pieces all off of my page so I can actually see everything, because this will allow me to align everything as I need to align them, and it will all be good. Okay. So I am going to drag my instructions over here just so you can see where we're at. So if you have the instructions, we are on step 9, which I think is pretty awesome. So we're going to work on this, what I referred to as this bottom grouping. So it's going to be these 4 pieces. So it's this light yellow rectangle that we cut off one edge of. So we've got an angled area. We've got this half circle that's dark yellow. We've got a full circle that's blue, and we've got a triangle that's green. And just to go back to the original sketch, we're on this left page. We're doing this grouping down here, and then I'll move to the top. All right, so I'm going to first start with this large yellow rectangular piece that has the one edge cut off. And if you set this so that the X is 2 and the Y is 5.375, it'll line up just perfectly. And the instructions for the traditional indicated that you wanted the point touching the edge of the paper and you wanted it 5/8 of an inch from the edge. At the very end, once we have everything all aligned nice and neatly, due to the fact that we will have this trimmed off on a printed page, you probably want to shift it inwards towards the left, so that way it doesn't end up getting cut off, and you want to be able to see that actual point, which is not something that you have to worry about in traditional scrapbooking. But for now, I wanted to create it as close to the original as possible and then worry about adjusting it for print margins at the end. Okay, so this large yellow piece is in place. And so now I'm going to layer the next piece, which is the bottom half of the dark yellow circle. And this needs to be aligned so that it's touching the bottom of this large yellow rectangle that's behind it. And you want the 45-degree angle edge to line up nicely, and that looks like it's pretty good. So I'm going to let go and put that there. The next piece I want to add is this green triangle that we have, and we want this to be centered on this large yellow. So I'm going to select the two of them, and I'm going to use the 5th button to align the middle point. And you can see that just based on where I dropped it, it's not quite where I want it to be. So I'm just going to use my left arrow key and nudge it over. So that is how we get that one in alignment. Then I want the blue circle, and I am just going to eyeball where I want it to be. I think if when I went and tried to align it using the 2nd and the 5th here with the circle, because the circle's been cut into a part, it doesn't align right. So I just eyeballed it and decided that was good enough. So that is that whole group in its correct location. So I am going to hit save. Now I'm going to worry about the part that's on the top, which actually lines up pretty easily. So of all these pieces that I have left here, I want this green rectangle. And I am going to set the X to be 2 and the Y to be 0.625. And this allows the left edge of this green rectangle to align with the left edge of the big yellow rectangle that we sliced a corner out of. And it is also 5/8 of an inch from the top. We're going to take this vertical or this portrait rectangle and temporarily align it with the middle point. So select both of those, use the 5th button and align it there. Now I know this is too close to the top edge. Ultimately, the temp recipe has you rotating this, but that is much easier done once you've kind of got everything in the correct place. So it's not going to be tilted a whole lot in order to keep it from overlapping. But if you decide you want it to overlap, you can do that. But I left it just not rotated until I was all done, so that way I could make a decision about what I wanted to do there. And I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to align the borders, and if you're following along, we're on step 11. So the green strip needs to be at X equals 0.5 and Y equals 0. And the blue strip needs to be at 1.25 and y equals 0. And just a note, this blue strip is actually what was a punched border in the traditional layout. And they ended up putting a piece of paper behind it in order to show through the punch. So I'm actually going to bring that back onto the screen so you can see it. So they took a punch and then they layered a piece of paper behind it so you could actually see the cutout portions of the punch. If they had not done that, you would not be able to differentiate the punch from their background paper, or if it hangs over actually the swirled colored paper, that would be really hard to see through the punched area here also. So what you do digitally, you have lots of options. You can do something similar. You can put a strip there. You can punch something. You can put a title. But that's what I left there as a placeholder for that. So you can make a decision on how you want to manage that as you get closer to the end of your design. So now these two pieces I kept here when I was doing this originally, just because I was not sure how the mirror imaging was going to turn out. You don't end up needing them, but I've kept them here just in case somebody ends up having an issue and deletes something. So you have them. So on step 12, we're going to add all of our photo frames at once, because we basically have what I'm going to refer to as the mats for your photos, all in their right locations, so it's much easier to align everything. So we're going to insert an empty frame. So this first one, you're going to select it and change the width to 5.5 and the height to 3.5. And this one is going to be over this green rectangle that's up here near the top. So by selecting them both, I can use the second and the fifth to align them. Then I am going to do the next empty frame. So we add it, and then we're going to change it to 3.5 by 4.5, sorry, 3.5 by 4.5. And I'm going to align it on top of the blue portrait mat. I know I have to adjust, some layering here, but I will come back and do that. The next empty frame is going to be 3.5 by 5.5. And unfortunately, due to the fact that we trimmed that big rectangle, this one you're going to kind of have to eyeball and just put close to the location, because it's going to be fairly centered in this portion of the yellow rectangle that you are not covering up by either the borders or by the yellow half circle. So kind of sneak it in there. Then next we have the one more, and this one you want to leave is 4x4, but we want to make it a circle because it's going to go over this blue circle. And one of the ways to do that is to go to Content, go to the puppy paw, go to built-in kits. If you don't happen to have it automatically pop up, you can go to your library, go to built-in kits, and near the top you should hopefully see an ellipse or a circle. And if you click the drop-down arrow for that, click apply this shape to the selected elements, and it will make that photo frame a circle. So once you do that, you can go ahead and center it over the circle by using the second and the fifth again. And I'm going to hit save. So there is one more additional adjustment that you need to do, and that is I'm going to take this portrait photo that's in the upper right and its corresponding mat, and I'm going to drag them to the very top of the elements panel, because in the traditional layout, not only are these rotated just a little bit, but they are actually on top of the landscape photo. So I have in the instructions what your elements panel should take a look like. And so you should be in good shape. So in my instructions, we are going on to step 15, and I say do not group anything. So there are some issues if you actually do group some of these elements because they don't mirror image quite correctly then. And then the rest of my instructions in order to create the right page are not going to work. So be sure that if you did group anything, that you ungroup it. And so now I'm going to go to the Pages panel, and I'm going to click the drop-down arrow on the page that I've been creating, and I'm going to insert a mirror image of this page. So when you do that, it inserts the mirror image before the page that we're on. So now we've been creating the left page. It's going to insert the right page before it, which means that I'm going to have to switch the order of those pages. So when it says inserting, it means inserting before. And no, it doesn't say before, but it does. So if you can see here in my panel over here, what I want to do is I want to take page 140 and I want to drag it to have it become page 141. So I'm going to show you what my two-page spread looks like at this point. And we are in pretty good shape, except for the right page. All the stuff at the top needs to be at the bottom, and all the stuff on the bottom needs to be at the top. So never fear, we're going to take care of that. But also some of these shapes actually have to be flipped upside down. So let me show you again what that looks like, where we're heading towards. And in the words of our famous Pixie Tamika, I'm going to say, trust the process. I'll guide you through that. So basically, we're going to move this stuff down to the bottom. We're going to move the stuff up to the top, and we're going to end up rotating what we need to rotate, but we're going to take it a step at a time. All right, so I'm going to go back to single page view just so I don't confuse myself, and I want to be on the right page. So we are on step 17. So the first thing we're going to do now is we are going to group some things together. So all of these items that are at the top of the page are the 4 things that I want. So I want my blue portrait mat, my portrait photo, my green landscape mat, and my green landscape photo. So it should be 4 items that are selected in the Elements panel. And I'm going to just arrange group. This has to be moved down. So if you do this as a group, you can change your X to 0.421 and your Y to 6.862. And that is in the right spot. Now, we're going to hide it and lock it. So 1, it's not in our way, but 2, we can't mistakenly group it and shift it and move it because it's in the correct place. Everything is good with that, and we will ungroup it later on. So next, we're going to worry about all of these things that are down here in the bottom. So the first thing I want to do is I want to select the large yellow rectangle that has one corner taken off of it. And we want to go up to the Arrange, Rotate ribbon, and we are going to select this item, which is on the second row, that when you hover over it, it says flip vertically, swap top and bottom, which is exactly what we need to do. So I'm going to click on that. And now we've switched the top and the bottom. It didn't rotate it. It didn't do anything else. It just switched the top and the bottom. So now that is actually in the correct orientation. Now I'm going to select the green triangle, and I'm going to rotate clockwise 2 times. If you happen to rotate counterclockwise 2 times, you'd be fine. So now it lines up on our yellow rectangle. So those 2 things are in the correct place. And finally, the last thing we need to do is to take the yellow half circle, and we're going to rotate it counterclockwise 1 time. One time counterclockwise. Now it's in the correct orientation, but it's not in the correct location. So once we've rotated, now we can get it in the correct location. So we are going to want it kissing the top edge of the yellow rectangle. And we also want it so that it is kissing that 45-degree angle, and I'm going to use my ruler guides to help me with that. And then I'm going to zoom in. It looks like it's lined up pretty well. So now the yellow half circle is in the correct place. Now you'll notice that our blue photo mat, that's the circle, and the blue photo frame, or sorry, the circular photo frame and the circular photo mat don't look like they're centered anymore. So I am going to just nudge them a little bit and put them where I think they're visually centered. And I think that is pretty good. So the grouping should look like this. And now we're going to take all of those items that we just worked on aligning, and there should be 5 items. There should be 2 photo frames. There should be a full circle, a half circle, a triangle, and a rectangle. So we're going to group them together. This is why we locked that other grouping and hid it, so we can't group it, and we don't want to be grabbing our borders. And we are going to move this one, setting the X to 0 and the Y to 0.625. And now this is at the top of the page. So now you can ungroup this. And now you can unhide the grouping on the bottom. And when you ungroup it, it unlocks it. And that is everything. So I am actually going to delete these 2 pieces that I don't really need. I'm going to save my work. And I'm going to view the 2-page spread. And this is the way that layout comes together. So a couple of comments about finishing this up. Feel free to rotate these portrait photos on the left page. You have some near the top, and on the right page, they're near the bottom. And also knowing that the points of these triangles are going to be trimmed off. If you like that look, you may want to shift everything over, both on the right page, things need to be shifted to the right to be within the trim guidelines, as well as on the left, you're going to want to shift all that over. So you feel free to adjust things. Again, the borders here, the blue was actually what was punched in the traditional layout. So you can go ahead and punch something out of it, cut something, make a border, put a title. Feel free to do whatever you would like to do. There were some great creative options that people did with this on our call last night. And I will show you what I did on my page to try to add photos. So this is what I have. I ended up tilting the photos that were tilted on the original traditional layout. I didn't end up making a border or anything like that, but I ended up filling these with 2 different papers, and I liked the solid versus the strips, the straight lines, because I thought that was just something that looked good. And again, some things about shadows that help. I like the way this shadow looks on the right-hand page, if you can see the way this border is, but it's pointing that same direction on the left-hand page. So I thought I would just take a moment to show you. If you go into custom and you point it the opposite direction, I think it looks a little bit nicer. So when you go into custom, the simple shadows on the left here are all lightweight shadows, and the ones on the right are heavyweight shadows. And you can point them in whatever direction you want, whether you want them going up at an angle or up straight up, over at an angle. And that gives you an idea of which direction the light would be coming from. So I wanted it to be a little bit more like the other page because I liked being able to see that they were stacked like that. So I like that look a little bit better. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to share that with you. So I hope that that helps you create this page layout using these instructions. There's a lot of steps to it, but I think the results are really nice, and it is an amazing project recipe. It was created by Megan Jacks for Creative Memories, but I hope you enjoyed the application to digital. And if you have any questions or any comments, we'd love to have you put those in the comment section on YouTube, or if you see this on Facebook, please share a comment. Again, we'd love to have you join us some evening. We meet every Wednesday evening at 7:30 Eastern to create scrapbooking pages, work on our photos, learn new things, and just spend some time together. So thank you so much for watching and appreciate your time. Take care.